Hi everyone, it's Miss Terry, and I'm here to talk about my December picks for students in grades 7 and 8. We're going to go through some fiction stories, then we'll go through some graphic novels, and then some nonfiction. Now this first story is called Beast, Face to Face with the Florida Bigfoot. This is by Watt Key, and this is about a boy named Adam who says that he doesn't really remember what happened when he was lost for 2 months in the Florida swamp. But that's actually not true. He does remember. He was driving with his parents and his dad had to swerve and ended up crashing the car when he was trying to avoid a Sasquatch-like creature. Well, Adam is tired of being bullied at school for saying that he saw the Bigfoot, and he decides that he's going to solve the mystery by going back into the swamp to see if he can find some answers. A little bit on the creepy side, but if you like those paranormal creatures like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, you probably will enjoy Beast. The Muse Squad is definitely a good read to like if you enjoy the Heroes of Olympus stories or the Lightning Thief. This is about a girl named Callie, and Callie discovers that she's actually a muse, somebody who can help people find inspiration to be artistic and creative when she accidentally turns her best friend into an international pop star almost overnight. And she's not really sure she really likes this job, but she's given her first assignment to help a girl named Maya, who's actually being targeted by some evil sirens. And she's told that if she isn't able to help Maya, the whole fate of the world is in her hands. So if you enjoy stories with Greek gods and goddesses, you're definitely going to enjoy Muse Squad. Haunted Hospital is another bit of a spooky story. This is about 4 friends, Xander, Lee, Omar, and Priya, and they love to play a game called Spirits and Specters. Kind of think Dungeons and Dragons, but more on the spookier side. And they decide that they're going to choose an abandoned hospital as their next stage for their next game. When strange things start to happen in the hospital, they're not sure, are they just freaking themselves out because of the stories they make up for the game, or is the hospital actually haunted? Might want to read this one with the lights on. Becoming Muhammad Ali is by James Patterson and Kwame Alexander. And this is actually a fictional biography, so it's based on his life, but not 100% true. And before he became the greatest boxer of all time, he was known as Cassius Clay, and he grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. And this book kind of tells the story of his life in 10 rounds. It alternates between narration and then also between poetry, because that's what Kwame Alexander isn't really known for as an author. And it talks about what it was like as a child, as he grew up to become a teenager, and what it was like in his first stages of boxing before he started to really win and do very well. So that is Becoming Muhammad Ali. The Stitchers is for those of you who used to really like to read Goosebumps, and this is a story about a girl named Quinn who, her and her dad used to always talk about the oldies, this group of people that lived on their block that never really seemed to get older. As a matter of fact, they seemed to get younger and younger with each year. Well, her dad was a cop, and they used to enjoy making up stories about what these people really were. Unfortunately, her dad has passed away, but strange things are really starting to happen in her town, and her best friend Mike have decided that they're going to go investigate and see what is going on. This definitely has a creepy vibe to it. Let me just read you a little bit of the back. It says, "Sure enough, each neighbor's gaze follows us through their windows, their eyes hollow like skeletons, their mouths twisted and open like they're screaming. I force myself to wave, even though my arm feels heavy. Mike follows my lead and waves too, even though he looks just as stiff as I feel. Not one neighbor waves back. So it might not just be the oldies that are the problem. The whole town might be in on it." Definitely on the creepy side. All He Knew is actually historical fiction. It's about a boy named Henry who's 6 years old in 1939, and he is deaf. And unfortunately, at that time, they weren't very understanding of things like that, and he is considered unteachable. So he's sent to a home for boys where they're not treated very well at all. Well, this is right at the beginning of World War II, and the US government assigns a conscientious objector, which is somebody who wants to help the war but doesn't actually want to fight or kill anybody, named Victor, to come to the school to help these students. And he is the first to actually understand that Henry actually isn't unteachable, he's just deaf, and that he really is a smart young man, and he tries to help Henry get back to his family. Definitely a little bit on the tearjerker side for this one. All He Knew. This next one is called Turning Point, and this is about two girls who loved to do ballet. This is about Monique and Rashida, and both of them are really, really good, but Monique is fantastic, and she's actually just been chosen for an elite academy that's kind of a sleepaway camp, and Rashida's definitely going to be missing her best friend, and she's trying to juggle everything that she's dealing with at home while Monique is trying to deal with some of the racism that happens in the ballet world against girls of color. So the two of them communicate through text. So there's some texting involved in the book, little short snippets of the two of them corresponding back and forth in addition to the narration. There's also a little bit of a love story as Rashida is starting to date Mo's older brother. Unfortunately, their relationship is moving a little bit faster than she's ready for. So if you like stories about athletes, you'll enjoy this book. If you like dance, you'll enjoy this book. And if you just like good old-fashioned teenage stories, you also will like this book. A Home for Goddesses and Dogs, by Leslie Connor is a story of a girl named Lydia who's had a lot of loss in her life. Her dad left about 6 years ago, leaving her alone with her mom, who has a heart problem, and her mom knows that she's going to die, so she decides to homeschool Lydia so that they can spend as much time together before that happens. Well, it has happened. Her mom has passed away, and now Lydia is being sent to live with her mom's sister, with her wife Eileen, and a cranky old caretaker named Elroy, who owns the big old farmhouse that they live on. Lydia's struggling a little bit. She's going to go to school for the first time in a long time. It's a very small school. There's only 12 students. And then a yellow Labrador dog appears on the doorstep of the farmhouse and seems to need just as much help as Lydia does. So if you love dog stories, you're going to love this. If you love stories about people overcoming quite a few obstacles, you also will enjoy this story. War Stories by Gordon Korman is a story of a boy named Trevor who's very close to his grandpa, Gigi. That's what they call him, is Gigi. And he actually won a Bronze Star during World War II for liberating a French town. I'm probably not going to say this correctly, Saint-Regine. And now what's happened is that Grandpa's decided that he's going to go back to that town to visit. And he's invited Trevor and his dad to come along. And they're going to start from when he went to where he went to basic training and go all the way over to France to visit this town. What they don't know is that Grandpa has been receiving threats from a group of people who say that if you ever return to this town again, we're going to kill you. And so they're trying to solve the mystery of what actually happened during the war and why do the people of Saint-Regine hate his grandpa so much. So that's called War Stories. If you like war stories, you will enjoy this. And it kind of goes back and forth from present day time to the time when Grandpa was in the war itself. So it's told from two different points of views. So those are some of the fiction stories. Let's talk about some of the graphic novels. This first one is called Carrie and the Knight of the Forest. This is definitely a good read-alike if you enjoy Amulet or Mighty Jack graphic novel series. And this is about a boy named Carrie who is on his way home to bring medication to his ailing parents when he decides to take a shortcut through the woods because he sees a girl go into the forest and she kind of is like, come on, this is faster. And he decides to go along and things do not go well. It's Carrie and the Knight of the Forest. Black Sand Beach, Are You Afraid of the Light, is about two friends, Dash and Lily, and Lily has been invited to Dash's family's kind of summer home on the beach, and Lily doesn't really understand why Dash is not very excited to go there, but Dash knows it's not really this great vacation spot. For one thing, his weird relatives are going to be there. A zombie ram crashes right into their front yard, and there's a lighthouse that there's some strange noises coming from it, even though it hasn't been operational in many years. So Dash has one thing that he wants to do over the summer, and that is to survive. A little bit on the creepy side. Black Sand Beach. Trespassers is another summer story, and this is about Gabby and Paige who meet at their parents' summer cottages when a mystery starts, when a wealthy couple disappears, leaving behind their huge, beautiful cottage on the lake. And what happens is Gabby and Paige decide that they're going to investigate, and even though that they know that they shouldn't, they decide to trespass at the cottage, and they come across something mysterious every time that they go there as they're trying to solve the mystery of what happened to this couple. So it's called Trespassers. All Together Now is a part of the All Summer Long series, and this is about Bina and her band, which is going along pretty well. Darcy and Enzo are also in the band. Unfortunately, Darcy and Enzo have decided to start dating, and Bina is she's feeling very left out, feeling very much like the third wheel. And then her very best friend Austin has developed a crush on her, and she's not really sure she returns it. So she's really worried that her band is not going to be able to hold together if they can't seem to move forward from these obstacles altogether now. The Oracle Code is actually a story of the DC world. And this is the story of Barbara Gordon, who is the daughter of Chief Gordon of Gotham City. And she always likes to help her dad. Before her accident, I shouldn't say really accident, but before what happened to her, she was a top-notch hacker who was also always helping her dad, who was a police officer. Unfortunately, she gets shot and ends up in a wheelchair. So she asks to go to the Arkham Center for rehabilitation to see if she can manage now that she can no longer walk. And she starts to hear strange noises coming from the Institute, as well as patients start to go missing. And she decides that she's going to try to figure out what happens. So that is the Oracle Code. And then the last graphic novel is called The Weirn Book, Be Wary of the Silent Woods. And this is about two friends, Alice and Nya, they're called Werns, which is a specific type of witch that has kind of an astral partner attached to them or given to them when they come into their power. Well, they go to school at night with other night creatures like vampires and shifters. And they always go through the woods by this house that their grandmother, of course, says, don't ever go to that house. Well, of course, it's a story. So what happens? They decide to go into the house and bad things start to happen. So this, again, is a little bit on the scary side. So that is some of the fiction books. Let's look at some of the nonfiction. This first one that I have for you is called Girls Running. And this is a book that talks about how to be a better runner, whether or not you're competing competing in actual sports, or if you just want to run for fun. This is going to help you with your training. It's going to help with you how to better fuel yourself to be a good runner, how to keep your body in tip-top shape, how to do cross-training and strength building, as well as building your team if you are interested in running with some of your friends. So that's called Girls Running. This next one is perfect for the holidays. This one is called Slice and Bake Cookies. These are all recipes that involve making a dough, rolling it out into kind of a loaf, and then slicing it to make your cookies. Lots of really delicious pictures. If anybody is interested in practicing and would like the librarians to test for you, we'd be happy to try some of your creations. So that's Slice and Bake Cookies. This one is an art book called Creating Mandalas. This talks about how to draw and design Zendala art. It gives you some step-by-step instructions, and then it gives you some practice page, but please don't write in library books. But this will show you the grid that you can use to create some of the artwork. So they have a lot of great ideas in there, and it really does break it down more step-by-step. So if you enjoy this type of art, this is a really great book on how to get started. I always think that mandalas and Zentangles are an easy way to get started with making some very creative art. This next one is called Animals Go to War, and this looks at books. We often hear about dog soldiers, but there are actually a lot of animals that help soldiers during war, including dolphins. It looks at also like insects, camels, horses, and talks about what those animals do, how they are trained, and what soldiers, how they utilize them during the wars. So that's Animals Go to War. This next one is called Beastly Bionics. This is from the National Geographic Kids, so you know that it has incredible photographs in them. But this talks about the world of robotics and how they are using some of the talents that animals have to create robots. For example, this one is looking at elephants, and as it's trying to create a robotic arm that can move as well as an elephant's trunk. So it talks about the animal and what the scientists think is awesome about that animal, and then what they're trying to do with robotics and that animal. A little bit of science and technology. This next one is historical. This one is called Thomas Jefferson and the Tripoli Pirates. So this takes place right after the American Revolution, when Thomas Jefferson first became president. The new nation didn't have a lot of money, and they were having trouble. Their merchant ships were getting attacked by pirates near Tripoli. Tripoli off the Barbary coast. And Thomas Jefferson tried a whole bunch of different strategies, and then they ended up deciding to go to war in order to keep them from stealing all of their things. And this talks about the months leading up to that war and then the actual war, which I hate to spoil it for you, but we actually did win it. And this talks about that war. Kind of a little unknown bit of history, but if you enjoy war stories, you definitely will enjoy that, especially if you enjoy like American Revolutionary times. So that's Thomas Jefferson and the Tripoli Pirates. And then this last one is called Into the Clouds. And this is the story of trying to summit a very dangerous peak called K2. It actually talks about 3 of the expeditions to the top, one of which went very bad and ended up needing a rescue mission. If you like survival stories, you'll definitely would enjoy this. If you like sports, especially things like rock climbing, you definitely would enjoy this story as well. Everyone kind of, I think mountain climbing is considered rather glamorous, but actually it's extremely dangerous. And the men and people who decided to go up to Mount Everest and the K2 had some very, very huge hardships that they had to overcome in order to make that happen. So this one is called Into the Clouds. I hope you found something that you're interested in. Don't forget that if you want, Miss Terry will deliver books to your school. Just make sure you click on the spot on the virtual library that says click here and fill it out completely with your name, your teacher's name, what school you go to, and what books you're interested in. I'll be sure and bring them to you. Thanks.